always entertaining, never a dull moment, as stated before. Next, we're going to our tipster, and our tipster is a man who showed us the double up is not the best thing in the world. However,
tripling up
after it does work. So we bring up our tipster for today, Mr. Jim Emery.
A pinch hitter now will do a triple play, right?
Yep.
What I'd like to look at today is something that you can leverage as aspiring professional speakers. If you look at your mission statement, it talks about being not just speakers, but authors, coaches, all of that. I went to an NSA presentation about a year ago. It was excellent. A woman came in from New York and was talking about how to leverage your content. You can put that down because I actually have that going. And she talked about taking speech content and turning that into workshops, into books, into blogs, as Alicia was talking about doing, into marketing material, into consulting, into training. The whole point of that was that out of a single set of content for your professional speaker business, you can leverage that into increased exposure and into increased revenue streams without having to invent whole new sets of content, which is really important as you're trying to establish yourself. So how many of you are authors? Yeah, of course you are. So leverage that book. Now how are you going to do that? Have you thought about doing an audiobook? I've just started coaching a woman doing some audiobook narration of her own book. She has a book on Amazon.com selling quite well, and it occurred to her when a blind person said, "Gee, I'd really like your book. Do you have an audio version?" I was just, I could do audio. Think about how that might look. Now, I'm not going to do a how-to audiobooks because we don't have time and I don't even have the experience. But I'm going to give you a few things just to think about. If you might think about maybe taking the book that you have and turning an audiobook into it, which unfortunately doesn't need illustrations. First, the content of your book. Do you need to write stuff to do an audiobook? Or do you have a book already that you might be able to simply narrate through and create an audiobook version of it? If so, you're most of the way home. Is it good as is? Or is it one of those books that has sidebars here and diagrams there that might be a little harder for an audiobook? Read it and see. It's pretty simple to figure that out just by reading through it. You need to know how long this is going to be. The whole audiobook world revolves around length. That you want to know how long your audiobook will be. The typical is 155 words a minute or 9,300 words per hour. Take the word count of your book, divide by 9,300, you've got how long it is in hours. A typical 50,000 word book is about 5 1/3 hours, so that you get an idea of kind of how long books are. What's the revenue stream you might get out of it? Typically, revenue from audiobooks are based on length. Now, the retailer will set the price, you don't do that, but it's typically going to be anywhere from $7 to $10 for an audiobook that's 1 to 3 hours to and maybe as much as $25 or $35 for a really long, like over 20 hours. But typically it's going to be maybe in the $10 to $15 range. Now, what are the costs against that? Are you going to narrate it? Well, ask yourself, are you good? Could you read this? And if you don't know, try it. Read some of your book, listen to it, see if you think you did a nice job. Is it fiction or is it nonfiction? Fiction typically requires multiple characters as well as a narrator. If you're really good with voices and can do those multiple characters, you can do that. The curious thing about nonfiction is that most people who buy nonfiction audiobooks want the narration to be done by the author. So you're kind of a leg up already when you're doing that. If you want to hire a narrator, be prepared to spend about $100 to $200 per finished hour of your content. So you can kind of do the math there as well. You want to record it yourself at home? Do you have the space? Do you have equipment, microphones? Do you have a quiet space? Can you do editing? If not, go to a studio. They'll really help you with that. A lot of studios know how to do that. Be prepared to spend about $80 to $100 an hour to do that. So that's just a couple things to think about. research it if you want to. There's plenty of opportunities to do this, but make some decisions. Do you have good content? Do you have customers? What's the revenue likely to be? What are the costs going to be? And have some gumption. Go do an audiobook.